channel. Today we are going to address a very important topic which we don't know if you people see it as important as we do, which is communication. I know many people here, people ranting and talking about communication skills here and there, and it's even a course unit in most of the courses in university. So we thought it wise to address it from our perspective. My name is Mtibwa Hilary as usual, and he is
Sebulime Gonzaga.
And to dive into the topic immediately, I don't know if Gonza you could have some insights or some questions about the topic.
Yes, I have a lot of questions for you. And to start with, you said we are going to talk about a very important topic called communication. And as you gave us a brief introduction, you talked about communication skills being a course unit in most of the courses at university. In my view, most of the people take communication, when we say communication skills, they take it as something for their profession, something you need for your workplace. So my first question would be, do you think communication is only for our workplaces, or there are some other areas in life that have the aspect of communication, where communication is very important?
I think there are other areas in life, very many of them, in which communication is extremely important. For example, in relationships, in parenting, and in like projects, of which projects could be work related or not even work related.
Okay, now I'm getting more excited. You've talked about relationships, work, family. I think that is where you talked about parenting. So, do you think, for instance, do you think it is communication is the same in all these fields? Do you think the same way an employee? Do you think an employee should talk to their bosses the same way they talk to their, say, dad, or to their, say, girlfriend or boyfriend?
I think it's not right to assume that communication is the same everywhere. You need different approaches to communication for the different contexts. For example, even at work, you need different approaches to communication for the different aspects within work. As you mentioned, someone could have to communicate to their boss or to their subordinate in a setting of a one-to-one conversation, and that could require a different approach as compared to a work conference or a work meeting, where they are talking to their boss in the absence of other employees. So, in brief, context matters. Yeah.
And another exciting one. Do you think communication is just about the words someone says, or there are some other aspects to communication rather than the words?
I think besides the words do matter. That is the information embedded in what is being communicated. But they don't take up 100% of what matters. There are other things that matter so much, like the tone, if the communication is verbal, the body language, if the communication is physical, and then you could say even the frequency. I don't know if that is part of the tone, like the speed.
The rate at which words come.
Yeah, and many other things. So it's not all about what is said. It's also about how it is said.
Okay. Now you told us about the aspects of life in which communication is so important, and one of them was relationships. Can you briefly tell us about communication in a relationship, a romantic one, first?
First of all, in a romantic relationship, the communication is usually emotional, because love itself is an emotion. So usually what your partner tells you is not received the same way as it would be received if another person said it who is not your partner, even if it's the same exact thing. Now, first of all, I think in a relationship it's better to nurture the skill of listening and understanding first. Then the next thing would be to learn how to communicate with your partner. Now when it comes to understanding, to begin with that, I think a person only understands if they listen, and they only listen if they hear. And by differentiating listening and hearing, I'm trying to bring in the concept of giving someone the space to talk, and also giving someone your ears besides the space to talk. For example, what you're doing right now, you're not interrupting what I'm saying. So you've given me the space to talk. But it's not guaranteed that you're thinking about what I'm saying. So, in as far as romantic relationships are concerned, I think it's very important, first of all, to learn to give your partner the space to talk. That is, try not to interrupt when they are communicating something to you. Then in addition to that, listen to them. Think about what they are saying. Give them your ears. Then, try to understand their perspective after listening. Try to, I would say, to use what they are saying to enable you to look at life behind their eyes. Then when it gets to the speaking part, like to the part where you are the one sharing information, I think it's important to try and keep a tone that doesn't symbolize aggression. Like, try to keep the tone in a friendly zone. Then the body language also, it would be very good if you display body language that doesn't give off vibes of either dishonesty. I think I would describe it in a form of like trusting what you're saying. For example, if you came back home and your partner asked, "Why are you late?" You could tell them that we had an overtime at work and my phones had shut down, that's why I couldn't inform you prior. But those exact words that I have said will sound totally different if you walk away while you're saying them, as compared to if you actually give them, like, I would say, the respect or the attention to first address that before like you try to do other things, because trying to do other things while you're communicating such a crucial aspect of your explanation for why you're late at home would kind of symbolize lies. Yeah. So that is it about body language. So body language and tone are very important when you're the speaker or when you're the one sharing information to your partner. There are other things that do matter, but I think for me those are the ones I can think of now that are important.
Okay. I think that is a good one, because some people tell you that yes, their partner, whether they are fine, and they're like, yes, I'm fine, but their tone and body language speak otherwise. So I think that is good food for thought. Everyone that is in a romantic relationship, whether you're the one on the side that doesn't give the other person the ear to listen, to let them talk and listen to what they're saying, or you're the one who overtalks and you use even should I say a bad tone and body language that is saying otherwise, you should look into that and try to think about it and how you can communicate better. So we shall go into the next crucial one, which is the workplace, because I think also communication between not only the employers and the employees, but between the employees themselves also matters. So what do you think about communication at the workplace?
First of all, I think what differentiates communication at workplace and communication elsewhere is because in workplace dynamics, respect is something that matters a lot. And another thing is that anything you say or do at work has an impact to your perception in the minds of the people in that same environment, and the perception that people create about you at your workplace has an impact on the value they think you offer in that environment, which then has an impact on your finances, especially if that perception is being created by your boss or by someone who can press buttons that affect your finances or your income at work. So I think, as I've said, respect is very important in workplace communication, in a way that as you're speaking, you should speak with respect to your subordinates, to your superiors, and to your mates. Talking to your subordinates with respect has an impact on their productivity, and their productivity has an impact on yours. Because if your subordinates are performing well, then you're performing well, and vice versa is true. Talking with respect to your employees, to your mates, your fellow employees, is also very important, because you need them. They have an impact on your productivity. The people you work with, sometimes you need their help, and sometimes you have to work with them, like you have to offer them help. Sometimes you are assigned to work together. So the relationship you have with your workmates impacts your productivity. And then talking with respect to your boss is self-explanatory. But besides respect, there are also some other habits that one could nurture in as far as workplace communication is concerned, that would also be a plus in as far as their work environment is concerned. And I would like to address them from two angles. The habits are listening, that I've already kind of explained, and then giving feedback. So I think it's good that you learn to listen to whoever is speaking. Then you learn how to criticize. And then you also learn how to give clarity. For example, if you told your subordinate something, it's not guaranteed that they have understood what you have said. And it's so important that they understand. Otherwise, they might make mistakes which have big impacts. So, I think it's a good habit to always ask your listeners, especially if they are your subordinates, if they have understood what you have said, or if there is anything that they would need you to clarify on. Then it's important that in case someone has said something and you feel like they need to clarify for you to understand better, you point it out with respect and be like, I understand what you have said, but there is this small part that I would seek some clarity on, and then you mention what it is. Because understanding and being understood is so important in workplace dynamics. And then, in terms of feedback and criticism, I think that is important for the superiors who have subordinates. You could be right that this subordinate is very frustrating to you. They are doing things or even saying things which are pushing you to the negative direction. But approaching that criticism with an attacking approach is going to push you further in the negative direction than even where you are at the moment. And I think what you're looking for is to get into the positive. So I think the better way to get into the positive, giving a scenario example, is to point out calmly, not in a way that shows that you are inferior, but like I would say with respect again. You could be like, you first point out their positives before you point out their negatives. And as you're pointing out their negatives, you don't get so intensive on them. You become as precise as possible. Yeah, I think that would help in changing this person's behavior for the better, as compared to actually coming out and being like, why don't you do things with sense? Statements like, do you even first think before you do these things that you do? I think that would make things worse than they are. Yeah, that's what I actually think about workplace communication.
That was a nice one. I stopped asking questions when you said you have to give someone ears, give them time to speak. Like I'm no longer interrupting. But that was a nice one on communication at the workplace. This title has given us very, very good insights. Food for thought again. Whether you're the employer, you're the employee, you need to think about these things and try to work on those areas where you're doing badly and become a better communicator. There's one last one before we close, which is the parenting side that we talked about, which would be family. I think especially in our teenage years, our parents have many things that they would want to talk to us about, but most of the times they can't find a way talking to us about those things. And again, same thing that we're talking about on communication at the workplace. Sometimes there are some communications that they would have put out in a different way, but decided to put out in another one that later on proved to be problematic. So, just a brief one on communication between a parent and their child. Just a brief one. Briefly, what would you say about it?
Focusing on the parent, you need to understand your children. And as I already elaborated, in order to understand anything, you need to first listen to it. And in order to listen, you need to hear. So, that's one tip, listening and understanding. Now, when it comes to being the one sharing information, you should understand that these kids, especially if they are in their teenage years or even before, they do not have the same understanding of this world as yours. That is the adult understanding of the world. So they see things differently from how you see them. And they are so caught up in their definition whatever they are defining, that it's going to be hard for them to understand what you're saying unless you have proof to show for it. So, the best way to communicate with your kids is to actually do. Alongside the speaking. And also to only become harsh when it's necessary. I think since I'm communicating to adults in this particular part, they understand how to differentiate between a situation where it is necessary to be harsh and where it is not. So to keep this brief, I want to go there. But a final tip that I would give as far as communication is concerned is the reminder that communication over text is different from verbal communication because a text has no tone and the text has no body language. So, usually, what someone tells you over text can be interrupted very differently to how it would be. Sorry, not interrupted. Interpreted very differently to how it would be interpreted if the communication was physical and verbal. Now that means when it comes to text communication, you have to try and be extra polite because an okay over text is different from an okay over physical and verbal communication. For example, if you sent a text to your partner and they just replied okay, there is a way that kind of sounds cold, yet it wouldn't have much coldness if it was one-on-one, whereby you say the statement and they reply with okay. Now that means over text, especially with people whose relationship you value, like the relationship you have between them, it's better to add in some, sprinkle in some politeness in your texts. For example, instead of saying okay, you would say got it, thanks. Or throw in some emojis. I think it's the reason as to why emojis were invented, in order to add some, yeah. I think that's it.
Okay. I think these have been very, very good insights from Mr. Hiller about communication in the three aspects of life that we've spoken about. And I believe most of us have learned something from what he has said and are willing and are going to start to try and change in the areas where we've been doing badly. Don't forget to leave a like and a comment if you like the content of this video, and please subscribe because we have a lot of videos like this one that we think will be valuable to you in case you like this one. Thank you very much and see you in the next video.
Bye.
Zili make a chema hizi tu semonana chitungu.
Walogo wadoa